Welcome to everybody. I will be going over the surgical treatment options for appendicular osteosarcoma. I will not be going into detail every single technique. I don't think anybody that are non-surgeons are going to be really interested in that, but I will be pointing out some key points and showing that there are several different options for treating appendicular osteosarcoma. As in everything oncology, we are always talking about surgical margins, and in amputations there are also 4 surgical doses that we are going to be showing. The list shown here is going from really a palliative or not very preferential to curative intent. The intracapsular or intralesional amputations are, not something that we would like to do, in which we would actually leave probably macroscopic amounts of tissue or tumor tissue at the amputation sites. Marginal amputation is something that we do like in in the radius with the limb-sparing surgery. Wide amputations is where we have a large margin of normal tissue between the tumor and the amputation sites, but there is no natural barrier. And in radical amputation, there's going to be a natural barrier like a joint between the tumor and the amputation site. So for limb amputation, I think that's generally well known that that's probably the thing that we do most when we are confronted with any appendicular tumor. And we use it mainly for the local excision or the local therapy of any primary bone tumor, whether it be an osteosarcoma, a chondrosarcoma, a fibrosarcoma, or a hemangiosarcoma. It can also be used in dogs as a palliative measure when there are metastases, just to palliate pain. And also it's also used for soft tissue sarcomas and other tumors like mast cell tumors, which are too large for the normal excision, or if adjuvant therapy like radiation has been declined by the owner. There aren't many contraindications, but there are a few things that we do proceed with caution, like, if you have really severe orthopedic disease in older dogs, you might want to proceed with some caution. They do have to go on 3 legs, and they will have to be able to ambulate, so that would be something that you would have to keep in mind. Also, dogs with disproportionately very short chondrodysplastic limbs, they will also may have big problems when you do a front limb amputation. I remember a few weeks ago there was this discussion on the VSSO listserv where somebody asked, I have a very big fat corgi and he needs an amputation. Would that be a good idea? I think the general consensus was, no. Neurologic disease might actually be a real contraindication. If you have a paralyzed dog, amputating a leg might not really help him much further. So that might be something you have to keep in mind. As Elke said, the osteosarcomas, we do tend to see them most in the forelimb, whether it be the radius, which is a preferential site, or the humerus, which I think is probably the most common site. And then we do a forelimb amputation. I'm not going to go into much detail about the surgery. I do think there are a few things that might be interesting to mention. For instance, the skin incision. Classically, it's done over the spine of the scapula and then around circumferentially at the proximal third of the humerus. I find that a bit challenging sometimes to close. It's not really pretty. And then you have the very thin skin on the inside of the axilla to the thick skin on the scapula. And I don't always think that's a really nice way to close the wound. As an alternative, you can also do an elliptical excision going down, and that might result in a nicer scar tissue in a straight line. Also, oncologically, we do want to have wide or radical margins. It is best to amputate the full limb, so including the scapula. Please do not amputate the level of the humerus, but please take out the whole limb. Also in the recovery, I think it's better for the patient to not leave the scapula. The muscles will start wasting after a certain amount of time, and the spine of the scapula will and the acromion will, become more prominent, and you might actually get pressure sores, which in the long run do not benefit your patient that much. Also, one of the things that would be beneficial for the patient in terms of pain management is to inject the nerves before transection with the bupivacaine and to wait a few minutes before transecting the nerves. That will also help for post-op pain management. Once you have the limb off, you have pretty easy access to the axillary lymph nodes and the prescapular lymph nodes. So if they are there and you see them, please take them out. We do know that all soft tissue sarcomas do not regularly metastasize through lymphatic routes, but it's always best to take them out if you can, to just have them checked. So if you have other tumors like a mast cell tumor, we do know that we do want to take them out if we know that they are the sentinel lymph nodes.
What we're going to do here, we've had a really great introduction from Ruth. I really enjoyed your talk, wherever you are. And it's particularly pertinent because she ended talking about metastatic disease, and I guess that's the name of the game here. We're going to talk about the definitive treatment, medically, of osteosarcoma, palliative options, and then we're going to have a little comment on prognosis to kind of round up the section there. That's me. That's where I work, in Bristol, in the UK. It's a lovely area, lovely part of the country. And I'm showing you this for a couple of reasons. One, to introduce myself, and two, to talk about my first point. You see, being a medical oncologist is all about communication. And something I make very, very clear to owners when they come in with a dog with an osteosarcoma at the first consult is that we have two separate problems, completely separate problems. We need local therapy to treat a very painful lesion that's going to result in the animal being euthanized if it's not treated. And we need systemic therapy to treat the seeds of cancer which have been spread into other organs. So two separate problems, two very separate treatments. And I apologise if that sounds patronising to you, because for a lot of us it's obvious. But actually for owners, it's not. And I've only started to realise that relatively recently, that most owners, even if they're biology graduates or high school science teachers, will still think that the surgery is helping to treat the disease in general, and the chemo could be used as a substitute for surgery. And if you make these points very, very clear, I think it increases compliance with your recommendations. So Ruth did a great job of talking about the local therapy, and Jérôme's going to talk about other options for local therapy after the break, and today we're going to talk about the systemic therapy. But I think that point was worth making because this is a study of vets from the UK. Now perhaps vets on continental Europe are much cleverer than those in the UK. But out of 300 vets, surgery was seen as primary therapy for osteosarcoma in what proportion of cases? Does anyone want to guess? Has anyone read the paper? 59%. It's quite shocking, isn't it? If you're in a practice with 10 vets, who are those 4 vets who don't think surgery is appropriate for osteosarcoma? Quite frightening. And adjuvant chemotherapy was also recommended by about 60% of vets. And out of those 43% who didn't recommend chemo, the chief reasons were actually that they didn't think it worked, or they assumed the client would be naturally unwilling. So these are key points we've got to address, and it starts with starting very, very basic.
This last talk, we'll discuss a bit more into details about the use of radiation therapy for these osteocytic sarcomas. And Owen covered this already somehow, so I don't have to go over too much detail. Okay, so let's start. So as it was said, it's a rare disease. It's relatively rare for us, but it's even more rare in humans. It's quite a deadly disease. For humans, typically chemotherapy helps to slow the progression of the disease. And more interestingly, for localized cases where we have more hope for control, there's a good benefit of combining surgery, radiation, chemotherapy. So the combined approach is typically the approach that helps sometimes get longer control of the disease. In veterinary setting, you've heard enough, I think. It's a highly metastatic tumor type, of course. I think from our side as radiation oncologists, what's important to look at is if there's any bone lysis. If for localized disease, if there's bone lysis, the metastatic rate to at least the regional lymph node is reported as high as 100% pretty much. So it's an indicator of the staging just looking at the primary tumor. About the radiosensitivity, so the question was asked to me earlier, and it is indeed a very, very radiosensitive tumor. And that's why I also would consider this as a round cell tumor. So like other round cell tumors, like lymphomas, for example, plasma cell tumors, mast cell tumors to some extent, histiocytic cells are extremely radiation sensitive. And that's why the combined approach or the idea of using radiation therapy for treatment of the local disease makes complete sense here. So I'm sorry you can't read much here, but that's all the papers I will show, I think were shown already, because there's not so many. But here clearly in this study from CLAN 2011, they emphasized the benefit of a multi-modal approach to improve survival. And it's always interesting to see, because we keep thinking this disease is so deadly and so bad, but yes, dogs can live quite a long time if there's no metastatic disease at the time of diagnosis with good local and systemic treatment. When it comes to radiation, most of what we can find in the literature is based on the local or local regional treatment, so mainly addresses localized histiocytic sarcoma, more specifically in the literature, periarticular histiocytic sarcomas. In this study that was shown to you, again, out of 16 cases, 15 received curative intent surgery. One of these had incomplete margins and received additional adjuvant therapy with a high-dose protocol. So, at least at the time, the American way of treating cancer with radiation was to use the maximal dose for everything. This has changed a bit, but that was a bit of the bazooka type of working. So mast cell tumor, histiocytic sarcomas, everything would get 54, 57 gray in 18 or 19 fractions, just so you're sure everything dies. But anyway, that's the way it was done. Interestingly, I think in that paper is actually that one case that received only hypofractionated radiation with 32 gray in 4 once-weekly sessions without surgery, and actually achieved a nice, complete, and durable remission. All these dogs received, obviously, CCNU. But there's no control group. So basically, these are the results with a good localized, a good intensive local treatment and CCNU. So again, quite interesting survival and progression-free interval. The circle should go higher. Sorry. This was around the joint, large mass around the joint.